I feel like a lot of people, like, they go out and they're like, oh, I want to have a big summer. I want to, produce big numbers. And they really, like, they don't dial it down to, like, what exactly they want.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of like, hey, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to go and, like, do my best. And, like, whatever the outcome is the outcome. And, like, not to say that you can't have a big year doing that. Like, you definitely can. But I think when I, like, changed my mindset of, like, I have to, like, I've got to get specific on, like, what I want and, like, what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
That was when, like, everything, like, had changed.
Welcome everybody out to the DD podcast with the Golden Door Deep Dive segment. We're stoked to have Mr. Matt Duvalois with us, brought to us by the pest control industry from Grit. Dude, how are you doing?
Great, man. Glad to be here.
Dude, it's good to have you on here.
Thanks.
So this is your 5th summer. You just finished up. When did you finish?
I think it was September 15th.
Okay, so it's been a couple months.
Yep.
Since you finished up. Walk me through the summer, dude. Give us the stats.
Wow. Hit 650K right on the dot, pretty much. Hit it and was out of there.
Right on the money.
Yeah, I mean, what else you want to know about the stats?
How many accounts were serviced?
It was 550 right on the dot.
Okay, so you had a decently high contract value. Yep. What did that look like?
I think it was 1189 or something like that.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay, you had a great summer. Where all were you?
So started out in Richmond, Virginia. And then I think a few months into the summer, we combined with another team. So we went out to Northern Indiana. So switched the company we market for completely.
At what point was that?
It was the beginning of June is when we got there.
Okay.
So we went from selling like a per service to monthly billing. So I had to totally switch up the way that we were selling.
Interesting.
Which was interesting, yeah.
Yeah, we'll jam on that for sure.
Yeah. And then as soon as we have a huge competition at the end of the year called the Rumble, as soon as that was over, I headed out to Cincinnati with Zach Kinzel, which you guys did a podcast.
Have you ripped in his Corvette yet?
Yep. He's let me drive it a few times.
Dude, that thing was fun to ride in.
Yeah, me and him are good buds.
Yeah, he's a good man. Shout out Zach, we love you.
Shout out Kinzel, what a guy. But yeah, finished out in Cincinnati with him, and it was awesome. So
that's awesome. So talk to me about that middle of the summer, the switch of style of selling. What did it take to adapt to that?
It's a good question. It was
and let's explain to the audience actually what specifically that was. So you went from a quarterly contract to a month-to-month base?
Yeah. So like we could sell, mostly what we were selling was 3 different services that we could do. So one was like it was quarterly, which like I didn't sell a lot of. I just like tried to maximize like what I could charge and like the service that we could give. So there's quarterly, there's one where it was done every 6 weeks from April to October, and then one time in the winter, which I did a lot of. And then there was one that was every month from April to October and once in the winter. So that's like where I started and how I finished. Then switching over to selling a monthly billing. So they could buy a different package and you would charge them monthly for the coverage.
Gotcha. So what did that give you a hiccup in your sales process? Was that kind of tricky to adapt to, or were you kind of seamless in switching to that?
That's a good question. Yeah. So my first day out there doing monthly billing, never done it. I had my second biggest day of the whole summer.
Oh, wow.
I did I think I did 10 accounts out of 1,500 contract value for monthly billing.
That's awesome.
So it was it definitely was an adjustment, but it was kind of an anomaly, like going out and having like a massive day the first time ever doing monthly billing. So
that's cool. And then did you maintain that momentum, or did it slow down a little bit, or?
I mean, I wasn't selling 15K every day, but I wish I was. But no, I think for me, like the biggest thing is, like I'm pretty consistent. I think like the consistency is like what, leads to, the massive summers. So, I feel like, there were some days definitely where like I didn't have as good of a day, but like I was pretty consistent, doing between, 5 and 7K a day. So.
Yeah. And consistency is of course key. But what's interesting with kind of what happened to you over the summer is you were in 3 different markets and 3 different types of, or not 3 different types, but different types of selling styles and stuff. So what do you think is the key to remaining consistent when everything around you is not consistent?
Yeah, I think for me, like going into this, like this summer, like I knew I was going to get a golden door. Like I had already decided that before I left. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, it was like, it doesn't matter what the circumstances, like it doesn't matter, what's getting thrown at you, the market changes, the different billing packages, like there's always going to be audibles in the summer. There just always is. Like anyone that's done this job knows that like, stuff happens that you're not ready for. And you just have to adapt. Like you just have to adapt. And if you can't adapt, then you're going to have a really hard time. So I think like, I knew things were going to happen. I knew things were going to change. And so, when you decide you're going to go and do something, like something internally switches in you that that you have to get it done and you just figure it out. And it's like, we're some days like way hard and we're some things way hard to adapt to, of course. But it's like, at the end of the day, like, you have to make it work, and made it work. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a very powerful principle. And talk to me about that. The idea, because we were jamming about this before the podcast, how there's a big difference between a goal and a promise.
Yeah.
And making that decision. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've kind of been on like both sides of it. And I think a lot of people like fall into this first category, which I kind of want to like touch on. I feel like a lot of people, like they go out and they're like, oh, I want to have a big summer. I want to, produce big numbers. And they really like, they don't dial it down to like what exactly they want. Mm-hmm. It's more of like, hey, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to go and like do my best. And like, whatever the outcome is the outcome. And like, not to say that you can't have a big year doing that. Like you definitely can. But I think when I like changed my mindset of like, I've got to get specific on like what I want and like what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. That was when like everything like had changed. So this, like, I would say like when I first realized this was the summer before I did a golden door. I did 400K the year before. And the summer before that, I did 200K. And the summer before that, I did 200K. And going from 200K to 200K was like, I was honestly like way upset because I didn't get it. I didn't feel like I gotten any better.
Yeah.
So like I came into that year with like, oh, like, do all the training and whatever to get better. And I definitely did. But I went into that summer with just like I'm going to go give it all that I have. And like, whatever the result is the result. Like I didn't go into that summer being like, oh, I'm going to do 400K. Mm-hmm. And so I found myself at the end of August, I was at 300K, which is great. I had beat my previous summer of the 200K. But something in me was just like, dude, you have to do 400K. And at this point, when I was at 300K, my wife had already went home, back to Utah. I was on Rhode Island, and I think that she thought that I was gonna probably be coming home, probably like middle of August or so. And so I remember after she left, like I was like, oh yeah, once we're done with our big competition, middle of August, I'll come back. But I ended up, something in me was like, dude, you have to do 400K. And as soon as and this is where the switch happened. That was when I realized like, you can do what you put your mind to. And so I had decided like I was going to do 400K, and, everything changed. It's like, dude, you don't try to like get out to area slow. You don't try to like dilly dally in between the doors, right? It's like, dude, you're excited to get out. You're trying to like maximize your time. And from August 1st until August, I think 20th, I had like 15 or 16 knocking days. I ended up doing 100K in 16 days.
Wow. And
that was when I really realized like, wow, like when you like commit to something, like, hey, I'm going to go from like, I'm going to hit 400K. And it was like, well, I want to get home to my wife, and my wife definitely wants me to get home to her.
Yeah.
So it's like, once I committed to that, something switches in you where it's like, you just get it done at all costs. So to go back to this year, I knew that if I had that mentality going into like the whole year, well, dude, I'd for sure do a golden door. And I knew I was going to do it. So for me, it wasn't a goal. Like it wasn't a goal that I'm like, oh, like I'm just going to put in whatever I can and like hope I hit it, which is like what I think that like most people do. Like, dude, there's a lot of chatter from everyone, like industry wide of like, oh, dude, like, yeah, I'm going to do a golden door.
Yeah. Sam gets a lot of DMs. Hey man, I promise you I'm going to get that golden door. I got that goal this year. Yeah.
And like the reality is like most people don't do it.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's not a goal. It's like, dude, like I made a promise to myself and like to my wife and like an obligation that it's like, I'm doing this, like no matter like what it is. And so like for people, like it can look different. Like for example, like we signed papers to build like a pretty like nice house that we're in the process of building right now. And I signed those papers before I went out and deposited a large amount of money before I went out.
Wow.
And it's like, well, dude, if I don't go out and perform, then it's like, well, you're kind of screwed, right? So it's like, for me, it's like
pressure is a privilege.
Yep. I obligated myself to that.
Yeah.
And, like I said, there's something that happens when you have to, like, you've got to get it done.
Yeah.
And so like this year, it's like, I knew I had to get it done. And like part of that, like having that obligation helped, but also it's like, I'm the type of guy that's like, dude, if I say I'm going to do something, like I'm going to do it. Like, I don't care what it takes. It's like, I'm just going to do it. Yeah. And anyone that's done a golden door, like, there's guys that do more than that, which like, dude, hats off to them. Like it's hard. It's way hard. And it's like, everyone that's done it, it's like, good for you. But it's like, it's going to be hard. And like, stuff's going to stack. It's like the crap stacks during the summer. You have a lot of things that like, you don't think are going to happen that happen.
Yeah.
And you just, like I said, you got to adapt and you got to make it happen. And, you've got to always go back to, that promise and obligation that you made. Zach Kinzel actually, he said something to me before the summer, because he did a golden door before that and did $1 million in revenue this year. And he broke it down like way simple. He's like, my decisions that I make every day, like I have to look at it in two ways. It's like, does this help me with my goal, or does this like stray me away from my goal? And it's like, that was so easy for me to like be like, okay, like I want to take a break. Is that going to help me with my goal? Well, probably not. So it's like, I'm not going to take a break. It's like, oh dude, I'm going to get out to area later. Is that going to help me with my goal, or like take me off track? Oh, it's going to take me off track. Okay, I'm not going to do that. So those are kind of like my 2 cents on that.
I think that's wise, because the thing is, yeah, if you look at it like it is like a very like black and white, every decision, like it is kind of a black and white decision. And then also another thing that we have talked about on the podcast many times is making the commitment to eliminate the need to make those decisions anyways.
Yeah.
Do an audit. Guys, listening to this, do an audit of your day, do an audit of all the little things that you're doing, all the little decisions that you're making. What are the decisions that are moving you toward your goal? And what are the decisions that would move you away from your goal? And then reconfigure that, and then eliminate and decide beforehand that you're going to do everything that anything you do is going to move you toward your goal. Because if we eliminate the decision fatigue out of it, that's eliminating a lot of brain fog. That's eliminating a lot of issues that guys are running into at the doors, which we're seeing consistently over all the Golden Door people that we've been interviewing, guys. So if you've been paying attention, that's a very consistent theme. So I absolutely love that. I love that, because a lot of guys, they make the goal, they make the promise or whatever it might be, but they really aren't committed to it. And if you have that level of commitment, because your back was against the wall, there wasn't a way you weren't going to do it. A lot of guys crumble under that kind of pressure. How do you kind of relieve that pressure and make it as, like I said, pressure is a privilege. How do you make it a privilege?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, I remember like, this summer was like, there were so many things that like I just went into like not expecting to happen. Mm-hmm. Like right before the summer, my wife had a miscarriage. It's her first one, which was like extremely hard. And then she came out in the summer to visit. She ended up getting pregnant again, and she had another miscarriage.
That's hard. And
it's like all while I'm out there selling it. Like it could have been so easy to like give up and be done. It's like I had a bunch of health problems that like I just didn't think I would have while I was out there. And I remember I was out there. I had left Northern Indiana to go to Cincinnati, and I've sold in a bunch of different markets, and it was like a little bit different than like where I was. I went from like Northern Indiana where like it never gets knocked by anybody.
Yeah.
And like they don't even know like what pest control is or like if they need it, to like Cincinnati where it just gets obliterated by everybody.
Yeah.
And I remember like, dude, I was having a horrible day. I went out and I was like, dude, I know I don't like suck at selling. Like I know I'm good. And I literally had sold one that day. And I called my wife and I was like, I'm having like a way hard time. Like if I'm doing this, I am going to be out here until like November. Cause like something happens when you like, you sell one or two a day.
Yeah.
Like you sell one or two in a day and then you're like, oh dude, this is going to be the reality of the rest of the year, which like, it's not, it really isn't. But like, you kind of think that. And like, I called her and I was like, I'm going to be out here forever. And she literally, my wife's very supportive, but I remember she was just like, well, like, does it still make sense? Like, does it still make sense? And like, that honestly, like triggered me a little bit. I was like, no, like I thought back, I'm like, dude, what am I talking about? I'm like, I have to get this done. And so I think one thing that helped me a lot, and to go back to your question, is, and I think a lot of people do this, you focus way too much on like, oh dude, I got to do this much a day. I got to do this much a week. I got to do this much a month to hit my goal. And like, the reality is like, like most of the time you're just not like, you're probably not going to hit that every single day. Or every single week or every single month. Right. And it's like, to go back to what I talked about, is like being consistent. And I remember talking to like one of the guys that I work with. I came back because my wife wasn't out there in the summer with me for the most part. So the plan was to come back twice for a week. And I remember when I came back, I was in the office and he's like, dude, you can't, like, he gave the analogy of like, he was running, I think it was a marathon. And he's like, by mile, 1 or 2, like you think you're like, oh dude, I have 20 plus miles left that I have to do. And instead of focusing on like, oh, I have this much left to do or this much left to run, he's like, I just had to focus to getting to like the next aid station. Cause they have aid stations.
Yes.
Like get water and food and whatever. And that like really, really helped me throughout the summer. Was like, oh dude, I just need to get to the next aid station. Yeah. Which for me was like the end of the day or the end of the week or the end of the month.
100%. Yeah.
And I just knew that like, instead of taking the approach of like, oh dude, I have to do, 6K a day. I got to do 30, $33,000 a week and whatever it is a month. Because then like when you don't hit it, that's when you start to get into a bad place mentally. It's like, okay, well, dude, I just have to like give everything that I got and like focus on the inputs for today. And if I do that, then I know I'm going to have a big day. Right. And sometimes like you don't, because like I think that sometimes like circumstances play a role. They definitely do.
Yeah, there are things that are outside of your control.
For sure. And there's a ton of things that are outside of your control. And I'm like, I just need to focus on like what I can control, be as positive as possible, and then get to that next aid station where it's like, dude, I got to just focus on today, finish the day. I need to focus on this week. I just need to give everything that I can and focus on that week. And it's like, if I do that, then it's like, well, my month's going to be big. And if I do that, then like my summer's going to be big. And like, I know I'm going to hit it. And so as soon as I started to fall back into when I went to Cincinnati and my wife had called me and I had my worst week of the whole summer that week. I realized I'm like, I have to just like, I got to stop focusing on like, oh, I can't be selling 2 a day or else it's going to take me forever. And then you start to get in your head. It's like, I just have to focus on what I can control, get to the next aid station. And it's like, if I do that, then like I'll finish out big. And I remember the next week I had almost doubled what I did the week before. And then to finish it out, I ended up having my 2 biggest weeks I've ever had. I did 50K. It's like 51K is like the biggest week I've had ever. And then I finished out, I've knocked from Monday until Friday afternoon. I did 49K.
Wow.
In like 4.5 days.
That is a massive chunk.
Yeah, it was, you surprise yourself every year. You're like, you're like, oh, dude, there's no way I could get better or do more than this.
That's almost 10% of the goal.
Yeah. And
within a week.
And
that's
really,
amazing.
Really, it was that mindset change of like, you have to just focus on what you can and control what you can control. And if you do that and you focus on your inputs, it's like the results will come. But it's like, it's the whole combination, right? Of like, it can't just be a goal and it can't just be like, oh yeah, like I have to do this much. You're just not going to hit it. It's like, it's gotta be way deeper. You have to have a huge why. That's why people talk about having a why all the time, because the why is the closest thing to a promise and an obligation. Because if your why is strong enough, then like you're going to do whatever you set out to. And so it's the combination of having that and then also focusing on the inputs. And then also like, obviously you got to believe that you can do it.
Yeah. So a lot of just little factors that are going into it. And I want to speak to, I love, taking it step by step, because a lot of guys going into summer, they're like, okay, it's Golden Door time. But then they see that $650,000 revenue number and it's hanging over their head like a storm cloud and it's ruining their day. But I love this approach of like, break it down into bite-sized chunks. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Where it's just like, if we can get through, if you can dial in your own inputs and then make it to the next aid station, like you said, then the outputs do, in fact, take care of themselves. I think that is a powerful principle, especially for those that are looking to alleviate that pressure and alleviate the stress of maybe they had a bad day, maybe they had a bad week even. But I think those are things that are super important. So walk me through a little bit, because this is your 5th year. Let's rewind the clock back to year 1. What would you tell rookie Matt?
Well, I think like for me, cause I had sold at a different company my first year and I honestly had a great experience. Like, I did like really well compared to others in the office. But where I had a massive shift was when I just had surrounded myself with more elite people. Mm-hmm. And so like, if I could go back, I mean, I feel like I did it like pretty right. Like I I had the opportunity to like get into a different situation that like I knew was like the thing that made the most sense. But as far as like in the situation that I was in, I think I really would have just told myself like, you have to commit to something. Cause that year, like I didn't. Like really the only thing that I committed to was I want to make enough money so I don't have to work when I get home, which I did. And like to that extent was like, that kind of was my promise and obligation, but I wish I would have got deeper. Like I wish I would have got deeper with it to like, to really like specify like what I was going to do. And like, I think that like, I probably would have, like if I would have done that, I probably would have done better than I did. So that's what I would say is like, to go back, I would just say like, you really got to dial in like what you want, and then you got to promise and obligate yourself to doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it always is amazing to see our progression year over year and be like, oh wow, like rookie me was like head in the sand. He had no idea what was up. So for those listening, if you're if you're getting ready for your first year, you're a rookie or you just finished your first year, take really strong notes of what he's saying. This is absolutely powerful. So now kind of speak to the guy that is in that kind of situation. Maybe they finished year one and it didn't go so well. And he's wanting to hit a golden door. What's your advice to him?
Yeah. I think it's good to have, like, I think it's definitely good to have scenarios where like it didn't go how you wanted it. Like I wouldn't have gotten a golden door if I didn't have that experience. Like I went from, like I said, my second year selling 200K to like, that was my second year. So you think you're just, the best.
The hot stuff.
You're like, oh dude, I'm going to go into the next year and like, I'm for sure doing 300K. Like, and the reality is I didn't. And like, I remember coming back from that summer and I had a fire in me. I was just like, I'm not doing that again. Like, I'm not doing it again. And that was where like the preparation like really started. It was like, I realized like, there's only like, the pitch is the pitch. I definitely think that like, you really got to be good at your pitch, but like most people have the pitch really good and it's really like really down, but
there's not much to it.
Yeah.
everyone's pitch is the same.
Yeah.
3 feet.
3 feet up, 3 feet out. Yeah.
We'll knock those eaves.
Yeah. Where I think where I had struggled was like with my mindset that summer. And I think that's where it comes down to like a lot of the people is like they don't have the right type of mindset. And so if you're really trying to like make the jump from like, I didn't have the year I wanted to, and like I really want to have, a way better year, whether that's, doing more than you did the year previous or doing a golden door or whatever it is, I would say like you have to put in the time to get there.
Yeah.
And that can be a bunch of different things. Like maybe like for some people it is getting better at the pitch. Maybe it's, doing hard things or doing things that are going to, give you that winner mentality. Right. I honestly like have never been like a big, like book guy, like, especially like in school, like I hated reading. I think like a lot of people probably can relate. Thank goodness for like Audible audiobooks, right?
Totally.
It's like that was like I like listening to audiobooks. I'm like a big Tim Grover guy. So I've listened to like Winning and Relentless, and like I listened to both of those before I went out for that summer, actually multiple times, to really like jump into like what is the mindset of like winners. Like, dude, what is the mindset of like Michael Jordan? Like, obviously he's doing something right. What is the mindset of Kobe Bryant? Because Tim Grover like trained both of them. So it's like that summer, like I really had to like get better at my mentality, like not playing the victim. That summer where like I just stayed the same and didn't produce more than what I did the year previous, like it was because I played the victim like that summer. Like we were in a really like saturated market and I just played the victim and I didn't realize like how much my mentality actually like played a role in that. So like for me, that's what I needed. Some people, maybe it's like, dude, you got to like get the pitch down. And I feel like way lucky because a lot of like what I've learned and like what I've gotten from to like help me get to where I'm at is like I've just been surrounded by like elite people that have like done it and like that have the mindset, that have the right pitch, that have done the golden doors, that can provide the right vehicle. Where it's like for me, like it was just spending time with those people. And when you spend time with people like that, like naturally over time, you're going to become like them.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that was just like, as simple as it was like, yeah, dude, I just hang out with winners. Like I just hang out with guys that have it figured out and have done it before, and you pick their brain, and like a lot of it is just natural conversation that you just you get when you're naturally around them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, to make that jump, it's like surround yourself with the right people. Like you have to put yourself in the right situation and around the right resources. And then you have to figure out like why you didn't succeed. Like why did you, like what didn't get you there? And if you can't figure that out, that's the first step. It's like, maybe it's like, oh, my pitch wasn't good. Okay, then get better at your pitch. Train, get with people that have done it better than you, right? Maybe it's like, oh, well, my mentality was horrible. Okay, then like go read some books on mentality. Go like surround yourself with people that do have a strong mentality. Pick their brain. Go do hard things. Right, dude, if you like I remember before the summer, like everyone's on the ice bath train. Like, dude, I hate cold stuff. I hate it. And I remember before I went out, like I was like, well, I'm going to do something that like I hate. And one was like doing the cold plunges. But then I also did intermittent fasting. I like hate not eating.
Totally.
That was like really hard. But I did it all the way. Like I think I started in January and I did it all the way up until April. And it was really hard. Like it was actually like way harder than I thought. But it like me doing something like hard helped me callous myself to like be prepared to take it to that next level, this summer. So doing hard things also does help.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Goggins principle of callousing the mind. Yeah. Cause especially it's like, if it's something that sucks more than knocking doors, then knocking doors is going to look easy at that point. Because, you walk away from a Karen and you're like, well, at least I'm not in a cold plunge right now.
Yeah.
So that's a great principle. So is this going to be your first DD Con that you're going to?
Yeah, I've never been.
Oh my gosh.
I've heard great things. I'm way excited to be there.
What are you most looking forward to?
Honestly, I am like, I think it's going to be an awesome opportunity to like learn and get better. Like I said, it's like, there's going to be like a whole different level of eliteness there.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, I think like what I'm most excited for is I'm excited to see there's a lot of people that I'm like very, very close with that like won a Golden Door this year. And honestly, I'm excited to like see everyone up there.
Yeah.
And cause like, I think that people like overlook this. Like you're going to look at every single person on the stage and be like, oh, cool. Like you did it. But it's like every single person like has a story and has a, they had their hard times and they had their stuff that stacked up against them.
Oh, 100%.
And like, I think like actually having done it, like it's going to be cool to look at like everyone. And I'm not just talking about like the company that I work for, but like everyone, just seeing everyone like, dude, good for you.
Yeah.
Like good for you that you did it. It's like, that's the moment where like, what you have been working towards, not even just this summer, but like your whole life, like to do something like this is like a whole life preparation thing. It's like I'm excited to see everyone up there and get their award and you know, finally see their, you know, their goal come to life.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing to witness, because it's like what you said. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, like, Golden Door winners, they're just lucky. They're just built different. They're just this. They're just this. But it's like, in reality, it's like, you know, you guys are probably going through more crap than anyone.
Oh, for sure.
Like, especially if you're selling that many, it's like, it just, crap hits the fan. And especially, you know, it's not even that you're built different. It's just that different systems are in place, different goals, different promises are made, dedication, commitment, all of that. It just all plays a factor. And it's going to be amazing to have you guys all up on stage to that, like you said, that cumulative moment where we can all celebrate that win. So big congratulations. We're very excited to have you up on stage. Any parting words for the industry before we let you go, man?
Yeah, this is like where it gets hard because you can say a million things. Yeah, I think like the biggest thing that I would say to anyone that's in the industry is you really have to like figure out what you want. You figure out what you want, and then you have to like map it out of like, okay, what is it gonna take? Like, what is it gonna cost me? Okay, what is it gonna cost me to get what I want? And then you have to like be willing to like pay the price for it. And that's a process. Like, it definitely is. Like, figuring out what you want and then getting yourself into the right situation to like give yourself the proper resources to like to get it done. And then on top of that, being willing to pay that price to get it done. It's a huge process. But I would say like that's my biggest piece of advice to anyone in the industry is like, you have to dial in what you want, and you really have to like map it out of like, what is this going to take? And then you have to just go do it. And it's like, you know, there's nothing better than like doing what you say you're going to do.
Oh, 100%. Keeping that commitment to yourself is the key to confidence.
Yep.
So amazing, dude. Thank you for coming on. Everyone, this has been an incredible episode of the Golden Door Deep Dive podcast. Hope you guys took notes. We'll see you at DD Con January 25th through the 27th. Keep tuning in weekly for the Golden Door Deep Dive. Learn their tips and tricks. Get this dialed in. And Matt, before I go, what callouts do you have? Who should be on that stage that's not going to be there this year?
Oh, man. The first person that comes to my mind, and like I know for sure he's capable, is my little brother, Nate. He's gonna do it. He'll do it sometime. So I would just say like figure out first that you want it, and then figure out what you got to do to get there, and then pay the price. But you know, there's a ton of people. My guy Benji's got to get it done. There's a lot of people, but I think a lot of it they got to figure out that they want it first. So
cool. Well, we'll stick with those two. Those two are on the record officially. So everyone, we'll see you guys January. So have a good one. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.